So I want to invite some folks to come back up. Magali Levadens, we'd like to bring you up, and Yvette would like to bring you back up. And as I promised earlier, we want to have what we're calling the grand discussion. Now, let me say why we do this. A couple of things for the participants in the room. We're going to have a great discussion here. This is also an opportunity for you to begin to work on your evaluations or think about it. The evaluation is very important to us because we learn from the evaluations, and we find opportunities to always grow and improve. And think about it as your exit ticket today. We want the evaluation. So Ivan will be collecting them. Ivan won't let anyone leave without that evaluation. So what we're going to do in the next short period or so, as we begin to move towards the end of our day, is pull a few things together. We've heard great input all day from panelists and from others, and comments in the room. It's just been amazing. This is an opportunity to bring it together. We want to invite our key partners here and panelists, who really the planning committee, along with Dr. Kendall, to comment as well. But we want to give you at this time an opportunity as our participants to also comment and to share your thoughts. So these could be comments, these could be questions. This is quite open in a different way to bring some things together. So I actually am going to start by calling on someone who spoke earlier today, and I was so impressed with her comment and how articulate she is. So Anita Cepeda, I'm going to ask you if you might share any of your comments or questions about the work so far today.
Yvette asked me to speak about the importance of collaboration, and I have to say that in Spanish there's a saying of "que pregunta tan necia," and that means it's like, what a question that's the answer is so obvious. And I think that as educational or just as educators or anyone in serving students or the community, we step up to the plate and accept a daunting responsibility. And with that, there isn't a Superman. There's only a group of individuals with a lot of heart and a lot of passion and willing to put in a lot of work. They're gonna lift our kids so they can fly. It's, I think there's a quote in the movie Freedom Riders, when the father turns to his daughter, the teacher, and says, "You've been blessed with a burden." And I think that holds so much truth in our work, because when we take on this job, it's not about going out there and saying we just have to educate our students when it comes to Common Core or to read or to write. We have to think and consider all of the variables that come into play, and no one can do that alone. It takes everyone's talent, services. Our kids don't, just today and listening to the presentations, we're talking about EL students, we're talking about special ed students, we're talking about all of those variables that come into play. We have the homeless, we have the hungry, we have those that need health care. All of those, as a teacher, you can't solve those problems alone. And that's why it's so important to collaborate and bring all of those services that are available. We have a county clinic on our campus, and when we first brought them on, and because of the need of, we serve a community of short of 3,000 students, and 100% free and reduced, large EL population. Our community needed health services, but unfortunately, when we had that opportunity to have the county clinic on our campus, it's been very, very difficult to work together because it's parallel groups that aren't connecting, and it's so difficult to break through the ability to get them to work collaboratively with you or make it easier to access services, because you have this bureaucracy and this way of accessing the services that there's no flexibility or deviating from that. You have to go through this maze of to be able to access services for a child or a parent that's right in front of them. An example, yesterday we had some detectives come to the school and investigating a student's incident. And as we were waiting for the student to arrive, we were having a conversation. There was two detectives, and he asked, "Oh wow, you're talking about some of the needs that we also have a responsibility to do, and we have some staff development we have to do in the area of domestic violence. Is there any way you can help us maybe do something at the school?" And I said, "You've come to the right place." It's something that, why is it that it's just by accident that we heard about this when we're in a community that needs those services? And it just happened to be they were there for another reason, and it's something we desperately need. And so of course we exchanged cards, we had a long conversation, we have a date planned for them to come in, and but why is all this happening by accident? We need to work smarter together to make sure that we come together, and I think this is definitely a start, and just bringing in other social services that we all desperately need. Assistive technology, the engineering, all of those connections are just so awesome, because we work so often in a vacuum, in isolation, that can no longer continue. And we've been saying that for years, but we continue to do it. And I think that we just need more opportunity to get those ahas and make those connections and come together to do it better. Our kids deserve it.
You're very inspiring. Let's give her a round. Let me open this up for other comments, questions, ideas, things you might want to ask folks up here on the Okay, I'm going to let Magali ask a question.
I think it's a question for everybody that is based on your anecdotes and your reflections, and that is, if we have an opportunity, and I think this is an amazing opportunity with as neighborhood schools, with IDEA, and the university partners, if there were to be a roadmap to get there, right? Does that exist anywhere? Because I'm not aware of what it is. So if there are all the indicators, and this comes from my ignorance of knowing all of the detail level work that you may have all been engaged with and in over the course of the last couple of years. But if there were like a roadmap to say, not to create the ideal world, because that does not exist. There's no such thing as perfection. But what does that mean in terms of to have all those services, but at the end to see how our students would be able to take advantage of it, how our families and our communities. Does a roadmap like that exist? Does that exist? I mean, that's part of what the dialogue is.
What comes to mind, Magali? Well, first of all, anybody have any ideas on where that roadmap might exist? Okay, we've got
Yesterday, I was in a meeting with my operations coordinator, Julie Padilla, and she brought up an incident and meetings that she had been attending in our neighborhood, Pacoima, San Fernando, Silmar. And she was talking about a collaborative being initiated, where we would talk about our community and the needs that we might have. And then look at the resources that we have. And YPI definitely has that network going on. We meet once a month as principals. And also the talents and skills that we have. And how we can bring resources together. And how we can not feel isolated, but work together as a team and look at our community, the Northeast Valley, and really have an intentional plan, a roadmap, and something that would include even the city and elected officials. We have many elected officials in the area that grew up in these schools where we teach. And so this is, I think, the idea. Just even thinking that there is a possibility of building that collaborative, of working together and bringing people who are now educated. You know, many of us came from homes where we were the first college graduates. And we are all working in different community efforts or schools or government offices, but it's bringing all of that together and really being intentional about what our work is. So she's a district employee, and so she is going to work on this. And so we all just need to join with the police department, with Chamber of Commerce, all of those entities that can come together and strengthen the community.
My name is Ruben Duenas. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for YPI Charter Schools. I keep thinking about when you were presenting on like collaboration and successful models of collaboration, that they're there and you can point to them. I was trying to think of which ones were you talking about. And so I started trying to come up with my own little list. And the one that really I like to see today was the collaboration between the engineering class and program here with WISH, because why is that an interesting model? You know, why is that so successful? Because you're meeting the needs of everybody in the group. So when I think about collaboration and a successful model, it's because you meet somebody's particular need. And then when I think about why collaboration doesn't work, it's usually because a need is not being met, a basic need isn't being met, because there's no trust. And you can't address somebody's needs or even a common need if you don't trust each other to be able to take the step, because it's a risk, because you might give something and not get something back. And collaboration between entities is even more complicated. A person that I was trained by when I was younger said that if there's two people in the room, there's politics. And so that self-need and the politics that exist when there's more than one person in the room, those are barriers because, again, it goes back to trust. So I think about collaboration between an administration and its teachers, collaboration between teachers and parents, collaboration between SPED staff and general ed staff. And now today I have to start thinking about SPED and EL and the different things. And then I think about being co-located as a charter school that's building a brand new building on a district facility and it's middle school. I continue to think about what did that mean for us, and it meant somebody actually had to lead in trying to build that trust, and so organizationally we kind of just bent over backwards and gave up everything. So that way the local school, the principal and her staff would feel like we weren't there to just take, because that's the initial part and that's what created the lack of trust, that we're just taking from them. And then when they found out that we had money from the state to build a building, a $24 million building, it became, even our board began to say, well, you're gonna be the haves and they're gonna be the have-nots. So Monsignor Oscar Romero is gonna have this $24 million brand new building, and Brenda Middle School is gonna have a 100-year-old facility. And so it became a have and have not. So we had to really work on on giving, letting go of a lot. And then we had to really get to a point of where we had to find a need, and that was safety, because the students weren't used to being together, and so there were some disagreements. among students. So we had a common need, the safety, and then we began to, as we solved those problems, super important, the safety of students on a campus, we then had to have a conversation. We got to be able to be open a little bit, and there was some trust because there was some success in creating a safer environment for our students. And then we were able to start working on, again, something that is a need because it's a 100-year-old facility, is just beautifying the campus and doing service projects and cleaning and painting and doing things together, so that way we can move to something more. And now it's with YPI, again, a collaboration. It was the principal also learning that there are other resources. She's not alone in her fight. We could fight together. Two schools could fight together to get more resources for the school, work with YPI to bring more resources to the community. And now we're in a place of where there's a whole lot of things that are potentially happening. There's a Gear Up grant. A lot of the money that Dixon spoke about this morning is coming to directly impact these two schools, and that comes from a result of collaboration. That comes from a result of finding a common need and beginning to trust. The part that I worry about is how do you sustain trust, right? Because right now it's with particular leaders. I know Yvette and I aren't going anywhere anytime for a long time, but in the district that could change. So the principal could leave, and right now a lot of it exists with the individual leader. And so when leadership changes, relationships change, and then all of that stuff all of that trust and all of that collaboration and that commitment that is built kind of in fire goes away. And so the sustainability of getting to collaboration is tough for all of those reasons, but sustaining the collaboration is even more difficult.
So, Magali asked that question about roadmap, and one of the exciting things we heard today was the Sanger model. And I'm wondering if Brian, if either you or Magali could comment on that.
We have, the question was in regards to community resources, and what we've actually done, we have a family resource center in Sanger Unified, and there's actually a committee that has principals and people from the county and Chamber of Commerce members that all come together to determine what the resource center is located on one of the elementary campuses, and so but trying to increase the visibility, getting resources from the chamber. Do we have the same goals? What can we do? Because we all have the same goals as far as wanting our communities to have what they need and wanting our families to have access to those resources, whether it be mental health care or help filling out Medi-Cal forms, things like that. So that's something that it's really a community-based effort, and that was an exciting committee to sit on just recently that I had the opportunity to do. So I know that that's something that we are doing to increase that collaboration outside of the school, and really getting the business community involved in the county and all of that as well.
Thank you, Catherine.
I just wanted to add on the comment about the trust, and it's so important to follow through and entrench yourself in those curriculums and build those systems so that if there is a change, that those systems can withstand that. And trust is so vital in the collaboration process. I know Stephen Covey states that without trust, collaboration becomes mere cooperation. And so you have to have that trust and those systems in place so that if there is a change, that it's able to move forward, and the trust and those systems are still there if there's a change. So I just wanted to add that in.
I think as far as roadmap, I was at the charter regional meeting for LA just 2 days ago, and one of the things that we had discussed that in schools, we become like in a bubble that we're only worried about what's going on in our school. That sometimes we don't know what the resources are, but if we have nonprofit organizations like YPI, being able to create those roadmaps for our, LAPN schools that are in right now to let us know, hey, these are the resources that are out there, or even the universities. I know that CSUN works really well with Chime, and that's how they get those resources as well, here at Loyola Marymount. But if there was some way that the organizations outside that are aware of these resources to provide them to the schools, so we can become more of a collaborative model within the LAPN schools. I know that we have meetings and all that, but to actually be going to these resources and facilities, like this is my first time here, and I'm so impressed with your university and the collaboration you guys have with everybody else outside the community. And I think that could be a startup for the roadmap that we need as schools, that we become in our own little bubble too.
I get another turn? I just wanted to go back to what the Los Angeles Promise Neighborhood Schools have done. And coming from a leader that, from a charter school, those that cream all the best kids, and you go through all of those myths and all of those misperceptions of people. We are able to meet with the leaders of all of the schools surrounding our area. And when you get to put a face and a heart behind each of those leaders, you say, wow, you're just like me. And the kids that didn't come to our school, thank God they're going to someone that has the same kind of passion I do. It looks different, it's called something different, but it just feels good to be able to go to these meetings now and say, you're just down the street, and I never even went on that campus, I never even met you, and here we are serving the very same community with the very same needs. And again, there is no Superman, we need to work together, and I think it's great. I think the last time when we came and we heard there was biotech and Project Lead the Way, our feelers immediately went off and was like, oh, connect, because we're going in that direction too. So I just wanted to say that we're talking about a roadmap. I know that we have a long way to go through Los Angeles Promise Neighborhood, because we never settle for status quo or where we're at. But I think that just even that connection has really helped us, and I think we have a lot of good projects and a good lead in going in the right direction.
The mic back. Is there one up here? Okay, Cesar has one, and then we'll pass it back.
In our experience, I think oftentimes comes down to just knowledge and knowing what's going on or asking the right question. And I think that's what has come down, at least in our co-location, at our site, at the Bernstein site, there's 3 schools. There's a traditional high school, Bernstein High School, pilot school, and we are a conversion. We were at LAUSD, we're converted into an independent charter school. And a lot of times it's just people just didn't know something. For instance, one of the examples is, how do we share resources and how much do you put into the pot? And for example, when prior to becoming a charter school, the 3 schools' budgets reflected the facilities cost on our budget as LAUSD principals. Once we converted into a charter school, Bernstein and the STEM school noticed that, wait a minute, now we're sharing all the cost. What's Apex contribution? And again, it's lack of knowledge. We, as a charter school, most co-located charter schools pay to the central district cost. But that never gets reflected on the local school's budget. So then there's that feeling of, for the LAUSD principals, the charter school that's co-located here basically gets a free ride. And that's one of the myths that the co-locations get oftentimes. But the reason why is because the district administrators don't see the money that comes from the co-locations. And so that's one of the simple things, well, I think it's simple, but it might be more complicated. The little changes that could happen that could then make the collaboration easier if the right piece of knowledge is included as people collaborate. And so once we brought that issue up, no, actually we there's a cost that it's just that it doesn't go to you guys, it goes to the central district. So a lot of times it's just dissemination of information, knowledge, and not everyone has that knowledge. And that's why I love coming here, because this gives me so much context to so many of my issues. And I'm just humble. I don't even want to talk when I see the guys from Northern Ireland, because, I mean, those are real issues. And it's like, I mean, I think that, I concur with Anita in terms of YPI, what the Promise Neighbor has done for us at least, is really bring us together in a way that really we couldn't do on our own before. By bringing in resources that we all need, that all three schools, I mean, we desperately need to get more kids into colleges. So by bringing in the college ambassadors to us and having them work together, it really it's almost, we feel that we have three, thanks to YPI, we have 3 college ambassadors, one for each school, and they obviously are third party, they're working together, they collaborate, and that is almost like modeling for us. We should be doing that. But that's what the power, I think, of a third party or a focal point can do. And that's why I'm excited and grateful to be a part of the Promise Neighborhood, because it's this third party bringing resources together to meet the needs of all. And that, but it is still a lot of work. And I love coming to these colloquiums. Thank you.
And Carla, Estrada, have something?
So I just want to build from what's being said. I think one thing that's the most powerful, I don't know if a roadmap exists, Magali, but I will say that we have a wonderful opportunity here to design our own roadmap to collaboration, because you have so many of the partners here sitting together, thinking together, and really exploring all the possible options that we could have for our kids. And so I think we have a great opportunity here. And I know for myself, I'm walking out of here thinking of all these bright spots throughout all of the LA area that we could bring other people to take a look at and learn from. And even if it's just beginning with the right attitude, but it's definitely something as a new journey for us. I know as I also think about my own work in ISIC and in LA Unified, we're planning for an integration conference in February, and I'm just thinking, looking around the room, different people I'm definitely tapping into to come and speak to our schools about different ways that they can create new opportunities for our students with disabilities. And so I don't know if one exists, but I think we definitely have an opportunity here to map it out in an urban area or other areas, but definitely something that we've seen to be very successful from learning from each other.
So I'm Donna Muncy, and I work for LAUSD in the central office. So I actually wanted to say that that sounds like it could be a pretty straightforward fix on reporting the income. So thank you very much for pointing that out. And I think that just that small piece, which is not small for anybody, because there was also my first year here, which is only 3 years ago. There was a huge conflict on that site regarding the different access to different types of funding for other reasons. Was it? Was it before you became an independent charter? In any event, whether it was you or someone else, I think that really what happens is we don't communicate enough, and I'm certainly not going to pledge to change the whole system, but I do think that actually one of the benefits of having a Promise Neighborhood and a Promise Zone, and frankly having our other partners, the Partnership for LA Schools, the LA's Promise, having all of these different ways in which our different schools are interacting with third parties and learning to collaborate through different models based on different perspectives of parent engagement, different approaches to implementing the Common Core. That's only going to help all of us if we actually listen to what's going on. So first, I really appreciate the invitation to come today and get to listen to this. And second, I do think that that I do see after my 3 years here that Central is not as responsive as it could be. But I also think that what we probably need to find, I know that's the understatement of the century. I see that on your face, okay? But I think that one thing my team can do is actually put a point person on all these partnerships so that we are always present at meetings like this and then able to take that back and at least put it out there onto the table for discussion about how we can all learn from them. So thank you so much for the invitation and also for the amazing tone of honesty to the whole conversation. I also want to add 2 other points. I'm a cultural anthropologist by training as well, and when I was going through my program, the contrast point had been to this concept that the early anthropologists always had about all of them, but many of them, which was called the image of the limited good. And the image of the limited good was that there was a pie and it's a certain size, and that if someone has, someone else can't have, or if that if you get some, someone else lost some. And it became really powerful when some of the more forward-looking theoretical approaches to cultural and social analysis entered into the field of anthropology and simply said, it doesn't have to be that way. You can do your analysis that way, you can live your life that way, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's the impression or the interpretation you're layering onto it. And then last but not least, and I'm really talking a lot for someone who doesn't like to do that, I was totally motivated to hear all of that's going on in Ireland because I still think of Northern Ireland as a place of terrible strife, and everything you reported today was so hopeful. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Donna, thank you, and Cesar, thank you. I think we see restorative justice in the works here. I love it, I love it. We have another comment, and if you would be kind enough to pass the mic just across the room. We'll take this comment, and then we're going to have a summary comment from our panelists.
Okay, thank you. So can see I'm ELD one, so I need more longer time. So I'm really excited that we have something good going on now in YPI, Promised Neighborhood, Education Success Project, and LMU bringing us together because it's a good framework for the roadmap to take off, because I'm from Africa and I growing up in Africa, we have a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. The way I live that experience is that growing up, every adult is a father or a mother, and every child is a child. So what do adults do to a child? You do 3 things. You owe them, you're a provider, you're a protector, and you're a counselor. Those are the 3 obligations you owe a child. So as I'm walking down the street, any place, if anybody sees me, any adult sees me as a child, that person owes me the 3 obligations. Duty of protection, providing for me, and also counseling me. So I'm looking forward to a situation whereby we can take advantage of that module in all the YPI schools, whereby if you see a student, whether you're a former student or you're a current student, continue to exercise your duty as an educator, which is to search and serve, to provide those services that we owe them. When my students leave me at the end of 6th grade, I try to follow them through. That's why at the end of the school day, you come to Grant Elementary School, it's like we're starting a brand new program after school because my former middle school students, high school students, they will all converge at the schoolyard because they feel that they are welcome. And because I continue to think that we owe them duty of care and guidance as they move on. So I'd like to see a situation whereby anytime any of us walks into any school, particularly any of the YPI schools, you feel at home. But we as educators, we know how to navigate our ways through. But we want to create a platform that allow our parents to do so. If my student walks into Ramona Elementary School, they will feel that they're at home, and whoever is there is going to be there to meet their needs. So I'm looking at, to have that kind of collaboration going forward.
Thank you. I'd like to now ask each of our panelists who have been with us all day to share a closing statement. And Magali, I'm going to actually start with you. And I'm thinking you could focus on a specific thing today, respond to some of the things you've heard, a chance to maybe add something that you've thought of. But what would be your final thoughts for us?
Thank you, and I think that one thought is just the inspiration and the hope that I think I hear after each of these convenings, and just also a sense of gratitude of being able to be in these conversations. I was recently at a conference listening to the widow of Paulo Freire, Nita Freire, and she's extending his work about hope and love, and one of the concepts that she left us with was this idea of untested feasibility. This idea of collaboration, of coming together through the promise of the Promise Neighborhood School is, I think, very resonant of what that concept is of untested feasibility here in the Los Angeles area. And I think that's just an amazing opportunity that we all have. And the second is about this other quote from Antonio Machado about caminante, el camino se hace al andar, which means you make the road by walking it. So this idea of a roadmap might seem a little rigid. I'm kind of hearing Maureen's echo, like, it's not organic enough, but it's really the idea of coming together, and it's not a rigid road. It's really a flexible, dynamic, moving, evolving road that we make because our children will, we're looking at the next generation. So those are like three thoughts that I wanted to leave with. I don't always have one thought.
Well, three is a good number.
Magali, you never have just one thought. Believe me, I've known you too long. But again, I second what Magali was saying in terms of inspirational, because I think oftentimes those of us in the university are so removed from the day-to-day lives that you all lead, as teachers and leaders. And I think also just putting the human face on every child that you're with. Obviously my focus has been for many years, kids who are challenged and struggle and, are labeled with different, diagnoses and so forth. But there's so much more to these children than just that label. And there's a word that's popping up in our field now called intersectionality. And it's looking at those points of intersection so that a child with a disability, has lived their life either as a boy or a girl. They've lived in different economic settings. They may either speak English or they speak other languages. And there's just so many other parts to that child. And so I think if we can just keep that in mind, that as we look at the children we serve and see them as whole individuals, I think, the chances are very good that we're all going to collaborate, work together, and I'm very optimistic.
Working. Okay, so I'm just really moved because 21 years ago, I was a founding teacher of a charter school, and I was back with Anita. And at that point in time, it was a very desperate, divisive place. And so what was exciting was that this new law gave us the opportunity to have the license to dream. And so when I started today talking about our conversation today and our reflections and our discussions were going to be about success for all, the intention of the charter law, again, was not to create a charter school in every school. It was to influence larger change on larger systems. And so back then, I was hopeful and optimistic that I had the opportunity to make a change that would be meaningful. And today, I am overwhelmed again, because at that point, I was moved by the idea, notion that as a young teacher, I was going to be a part of this movement that was coming. And I feel like we're on the precipice of birthing the next movement, and the next movement of collaboration. And I remember
back then people said, oh, charter school is just an experiment. That can't happen. And I feel like we are in that same climate today. Collaboration between district schools and charter schools and pilot schools, that can't happen. And so I want to believe for us, I want to believe that we are at the precipice of the new movement. And the new movement is, we're going to believe for not just our kids, but for all of our kids, for all of us, until we have 100% of people in all rooms believing that we can work collaboratively and bring about restorative justice for all kids in all schools.
Very powerful, very beautiful, and very well said. Dr. Kendall, I want to see if you have any comments you want to share here as we.
You know, I mean,
Let me bring you the mic there.
Obviously, this fills my heart. This is what I've been dreaming about. I studied for 7 years, wrote about it, and then we started it. So it is. I think it's a fever. It's collaboration. I love to hear everything that's going on. There's still a lot to do. I think that you described to me just the perfect opportunity when you said that you have all these students who need health care. The county sent the health over. And there was so much bureaucracy going on when the child who needed the health care is standing right in front of them. I mean, this is a problem that I have been working on for like 28 years. I get it. But then the police walk in, and you have an opportunity to help them with their domestic violence problems. And so that's a real opportunity. It's a vexing problem, but a real opportunity to do it. And call me.
So again, I want to thank all of you for your amazing participation and attendance and focus today. Just a few reflections that I'd like to offer. I love the quote that Magali shared. We really do make the road together, and we make it by doing the work. You sit here at Loyola Marymount University today, and this is a Jesuit institution. That means we're part of a 500-year-old educational approach, educational philosophy, 28 Jesuit colleges and universities in the United States, and many, many more throughout the world, with a very specific way of thinking about the world and thinking about education. Certainly one that has a strong emphasis on social justice, and that's been a tradition in Jesuit education before that term was even coined. But one that very much focuses on context. Context matters. The real world that we live in. We like to talk here about the real world of schools. And very much seeing the educational enterprise of one that is at service to the community and service to our youth. And so this is an example of ways that we can build the bridge between the university and the community, and ways that we can engage all of you. I know we've got a distinguished group of educators here in the room today, and I say this often, and I'll continue to say it. I invite you to think about your own professional futures. Some of you have completed master's degrees. Some of you, that might be a next step. For some of you, I want you to think about the doctoral degree. Everyone in this room has the abilities and potential to be that next level of educational leaders at all levels of the system. And certainly here in Los Angeles, there's a number of great programs. You've heard a little bit about our own program here, the EDD in Educational Leadership for Social Justice. And I just invite you, as you do this work, to also think about your own futures and the ways that you can continue to invest in yourself and in your own work. So we're coming, to the end of our day today, and we started a tradition. As I said, this is the fifth, correct, Maureen? Did I get that right? The fifth of our colloquium? Sixth of our colloquia. It's going fast. on the Educational Success Project, and Dr. Kendall, who's the inspiration for it, the very first one, thank you, she said, you know, we're going to end this with a trademark. And the trademark would be a toast to success. I mean, how often do we focus, and the papers and the media focus on all the challenging negative things that are happening in our community, the negative things that are happening in schools. But today we've heard so much good news and hope and great models and aspects of the roadmap from people in the room. And so at this time, I'd like to ask all of you to join us in a toast to the success of all of you in the Education Success Project. Cheers.
I don't even know who you are.
So our friends, what we'd like you to do is continue to enjoy your champagne or your sparkling cider, which some of you have. And this is a time, if you haven't done already, we want you to do those evaluations. We're serious. That's your exit ticket, meaning that we're not going to let you leave without those done. And if you want the forms for the continuing units, please raise your hand. Clarence will come around. Please fill out those evaluations, and Ivan will be collecting them. Thank you very much.
We're tired. We go through a lot of hours of serving kids. So when you come out to us on a Saturday, especially this early, and we have to travel quite a few miles to get here, it has to be really worth it. And I think that after attending these colloquiums for the past 3 years, I have to say that it's well worth it.
It's always a pleasure to come together with others in education and collaborate with them so that we can all learn from one another.
This is my first colloquium attending, and from Sanger Unified, and I thought it was a great experience to see these schools collaborating and all coming together for the common purpose of bringing special education students into the general education setting.
Sometimes it's just knowing that you're not alone out there, that there's other individuals and other challenges very similar to yours, and how are they finding solutions to that.
And as we move along with the Common Core state standards and the technology push that the state of California is experiencing, I thought it was a great event to attend and learn from one another.
So I think coming here and listening to not only of what is occurring, but what can be, is always something to inspire us, to look forward to.